Hi there, this is Koshik Ranchod, immigration attorney from the Ranchod Law Group, representing clients throughout the 50 states. I am going to talk to you about work authorization today and how to expedite, so you'll want to stay tuned because this is a hot topic that a lot of you have been asking about. And my goal is to answer some questions about that for you today. You can also reach out to us at 916-613-3553 and smash that like button if you haven't already. Let's dive into it, my friends. All right, work authorization. When I first started around 20 years ago, these were taking 3 months. And even up to 5 years ago, it was taking about 3 months to obtain. That was reasonable. Even then, people thought it was long. Then we had the Trump administration. That thing slowed down with that administration around 6 months before the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit. Everything has slowed down significantly. And USCIS is just completely gone off the rails with processing times. With work authorizations, it's taking 9 months to a year. It could take even longer than that, but that's what we're seeing on an average right now. How do you plan for this? Because of course, your livelihood depends upon you being able to have valid work authorization. One way to plan for it is to make sure that you apply well ahead of time. So apply 180 days before your work authorization expires to ensure that you're going to be able to work. Now, what types of applications are you able to continue to apply for work authorization are? Well, it depends upon your type of case. For instance, with family-based immigration, especially with immediate relatives, where you file the I-130, the 485, you're also allowed to file for the work authorization, the I-765, and the advanced parole document, the Form I-131. So with those applications, if you have work authorization already, you want to plan for renewing it as well. And this is also in the employment-based context where you're applying for the I-140 and the 485. If you're at the 485 stage, you can also file concurrently the same thing, work authorization in the travel document. If you applied for asylum, you may be eligible for work authorization. U-Visa, I just did a video, check it out on the bona fide determinations of work authorization. So now they're issuing work authorizations if they make a bona fide determination. It's still taking crazy long for them to process those, but it's still better than waiting till the very end until getting the U-Visa approved. Watch that video if you have a U-Visa. Students, optional practical training, you're able to obtain work authorization as well. Now let's talk about the expedite portion of this. How do you get your case expedited? This is very difficult to get. You might even have a very compelling reason and USCIS could still deny the case. Just want to make sure that you're aware of the fact that they're just not granting these. Where have we seen approvals? Well, one is for healthcare workers. We've been able to get these approved, especially physicians on the front lines helping COVID patients. Another is urgent humanitarian reasons for advanced parole. You might be able to get that expedited if you have an alien family member that's abroad, you need to travel. Another reason might be if you are working for a federal government agency and there's urgent reason that you need to have your work authorization. So for instance, if you're working for the Department of Labor, the Department of Defense. Also, nonprofits. If you're working for a nonprofit and that nonprofit should have a very well articulated mission and explanation on what they're doing is furthering the cultural and social interests of the United States. If they are able to articulate that, then you might be eligible to get an expedite too. Severe financial reasons. Now, I highlight severe because, of course, everyone who has a work authorization and does not get it is going to be impacted. So it needs to be more than just financial loss. Also, and this goes back to, well, how is your employer being severely impacted as well in making the financial hardship argument in that respect? Do you have a clear USCIS error? So if your name was spelled incorrectly, if the date was incorrect, you might be eligible to also get an expedite too. In the expedite request, it needs to be spelled out simply, clearly, and well documented. As I mentioned in my other videos, with your applications, the documentation is important. So it goes in hand with the explanation. You have the explanation supported by the documentation. If you just have the explanation, no documentation, your case is very weak. If you just have documentation, not a good explanation, there's no context for what does this documentation mean. So both go hand in hand and are extremely important. That being said, even if you have a compelling reason, USCIS may not grant the expedite. Also, if they find that you might have a viable alternative to the work authorization, or if your employer is making too many requests, the agency you work for is making too many requests, they may weigh your request for an expedite and put less weight on your application. Do not make a vague request. A mere vague request is likely to not carry much weight and less likely chance of getting an approval. Your request needs to be very specific and explain what those reasons are. So I hope this video serves you. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Make sure you subscribe, get notifications so you continue to stay informed for our weekly immigration show. And I want to thank you for bettering yourself. And by bettering yourself, you're bettering your family. And by bettering your family, you're bettering our country. Bye for now.